My mother changed the locks on me, then came back when I stopped paying for my father's medicine. I still remember the text message like it was burned into my brain. It was short, blunt, and sent at 6:43 a.m. on a rainy Thursday. Don't come to the house. I'm changing the locks. It's too hard having you here. No, hi, no, love you, no explanation. Just that. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in my hand, and stared at the words until the screen went dark. I was 28 years old, living back at my parents' place after losing my job during the pandemic, trying to get back on my feet. I'd been paying most of the utilities, helping with groceries, and, most importantly, covering my dad's medication bills because his pension barely touched the cost. And just like that, my mom decided I was too difficult. The lead up. Living at home wasn't exactly a dream. My mom and I had never had the easiest relationship. She's the kind of person who doesn't talk about problems. She declares them and expects you to adjust. I'm the kind of person who wants to understand why. That never worked well. When I moved back, I told them it would be temporary. I was picking up gig work, job hunting, and slowly rebuilding my savings. I didn't go out partying, I didn't trash the place, and I kept my room neat. My crime, apparently, was that I didn't let my mom steamroll me with every opinion she had. If she criticized my life choices, I pushed back. If she made a snide comment about my career, I told her I was doing my best. She called it being combative. Things boiled over the night before the text. She accused me of being ungrateful because I'd said no to joining them for dinner after a long shift. I was exhausted, sweaty, and wanted to shower and eat in peace. She turned it into a lecture about family time and how I never did enough. I walked away mid-sentence, a mortal sin in her book. The lockout. The next morning, her text came in. When I called, she didn't answer. When I tried to come home, the locks really were changed. No warning. No chance to pack. My clothes, my documents, my laptop, all inside. Dad came to the door but didn't open it. He looked uncomfortable, eyes darting toward the kitchen where I knew she was standing. I'm sorry, he said quietly. It's just, too tense right now. That was all. I ended up crashing on a friend's couch, then in a short-term rental. I scrambled to replace my essentials, spending money I'd been saving. Despite everything, I still paid for Dad's medication that month. It was $312, not a small amount for me at the time. But something inside me cracked. Cutting the cord. By the second month, I decided I couldn't keep doing it. Not when I was barely covering my own rent. Not when I'd been kicked out like garbage. I texted my dad. I can't pay for your meds anymore. I'm sorry. I have my own bills and no place here. He didn't respond. 2 days later, my mom called me. The first time I'd heard her voice since the lockout. Her tone was sweet, almost fake. Hey, honey. How have you been? I was just thinking, maybe we could meet up for lunch. I miss you. I almost laughed. She hadn't missed me when she tossed me out. But suddenly, when the $312 a month stopped, she was all warm and fuzzy. The pattern becomes clear. We met at a diner. She acted like nothing had happened. She asked about my job search, complimented my haircut, and then casually slipped in. So, your dad's been having a hard time getting his prescriptions, it's just so expensive. There it was. She didn't care that I was sleeping in a rented room with no closet. She didn't care that I was piecing together freelance gigs to survive. She just wanted the cash flow back. When I didn't offer, she got passive-aggressive. I just think it's sad, after all we've done for you, that you can't help when we really need it. I wanted to scream. After all we've done. She'd literally locked me out of the house and held my belongings hostage. The turning point. I told her I wasn't going to resume paying. I said I hoped Dad could get some help from insurance or assistance programs. She stared at me like I'd spat in her face. "You've changed," she said coldly. "Yeah," I replied. "I've learned that love isn't supposed to be conditional." That was the end of lunch. Over the next few weeks, I heard from relatives that my mom was telling people I'd abandoned my father. I sent them the screenshots of her lockout text. Some believed me. Some didn't. I never got my belongings back. She claimed she'd donated most of it because I didn't come get it. Which was rich, considering she never let me back inside. Where I am now. It's been over a year. I've got my own apartment, a stable job, and a peace I didn't know was possible when I lived under her roof. I talk to Dad sometimes, but it's strained. I know he's stuck between loyalty to her and love for me. As for my mom, she still occasionally sends me friendly texts when she needs something. I've stopped replying. The truth is, sometimes family are just people you share DNA with. And sometimes, walking away, even if you walk away alone, is the only way to keep your sanity. It's been about 3 months since I posted my original story. I didn't expect it to blow up the way it did. I read almost every comment, and while some of them stung, especially the "your dad should have stood up for you" ones, most of them validated feelings I'd been questioning for years. A lot of people asked for more background on my family dynamic, and, well, a lot has happened since I last posted. The background I never really shared. My mom has always been the authority figure in the house. Dad was the quiet, go-along-to-get-along type. When I was a kid, if I had a fight with my mom, he'd tell me to just apologize, even when I hadn't done anything wrong. He hated confrontation so much that he'd rather let me take the blame than risk making her mad. I don't say this to trash him, I love my dad, but it meant my mom learned early that she could get away with anything if she kept him on her side. When I was 19, I moved out because she hated my girlfriend at the time and literally threatened to pack my bags if I didn't break up with her. I didn't break up with her, I left. We broke up anyway a year later, but I never went back home until the pandemic forced me to. So when she locked me out this time, it wasn't some shocking, out-of-character move. It was the logical conclusion of years of her controlling the narrative. After my post went viral, I didn't plan on telling my mom about the post, but somehow she found it. I suspect one of my cousins stumbled across it and sent her the link. I started getting texts like, "Wow, you're telling strangers lies about your own family. You make yourself sound like a saint. Why don't you tell them what you're really like? Delete it or I'll take legal action." I ignored them. 2 days later, Dad called. His voice was shaky. She's really upset about what you wrote." I told him, everything I wrote was the truth. If she's upset, maybe it's because she's seeing herself through someone else's eyes for the first time. Silence. Then, "I just don't want this to get worse." The new twist. Last week, I got a call from an unknown number. It was my dad's doctor's office. Apparently, he'd missed 2 appointments and wasn't picking up their calls. Concerned, they reached out to me because I'm listed as his emergency contact. I drove over to check on him. He lives about 40 minutes away now. When I got there, I saw something that made my stomach drop. The front door was cracked open, the living room was half packed into boxes, and my mom was sitting at the table with a pen and a stack of envelopes. She looked up, surprised to see me. "Oh. I didn't know you were coming." I asked where Dad was. "At work," she said casually. "He works part-time at a hardware store, mostly for something to do." I pointed at the boxes. "We're moving," she said flatly. "To somewhere cheaper. And before you start, no, I'm not asking for money." I didn't believe her for a second. The real reason for the move. It turns out they'd fallen behind on mortgage payments. Dad's medical bills had piled up because, without my contributions, they had to start using credit cards to cover them. Now the bank was threatening foreclosure. And here's the kicker, my mom blamed me. She actually said, "If you hadn't abandoned us, we wouldn't be in this mess." I reminded her that she kicked me out. That I'd been helping out until she made it impossible for me to live there. She rolled her eyes. "You always twist things to make yourself look like the victim." I left before I said something I couldn't take back. The guilt trip intensifies. Since that visit, she's been sending me long, dramatic texts about how hard life is, how Dad's health is declining, how they might end up on the street. And here's the thing, I do worry about my dad. But I also know that giving them money would just be rewarding her behavior. She'd take the help and never acknowledge the damage she caused. A friend suggested I offer to help Dad directly, like paying his pharmacy bills only if he handles the purchase himself. But I'm still debating if even that would just pull me back into the same cycle. Where it stands now. I haven't responded to her last 3 messages. Dad has called twice, and I answered, but we didn't talk about money. I just asked about his health and told him I cared. Part of me feels like I'm abandoning him. Another part knows I'm finally protecting myself. A lot of you said in my first post that "no" is a complete sentence. I think I'm starting to believe that. It's been another month since my last update. I thought things might quiet down after I stopped replying to my mom's guilt-tripping texts. I was wrong. The surprise visit. It happened on a Saturday morning. I was still in pajamas, drinking coffee, when someone started banging on my apartment door. Not knocking, banging. I looked through the peephole and saw my mom. She had a man with her I didn't recognize. Later I realized it was one of my dad's coworkers. "Open the door," she called. "We need to talk." I didn't move. She banged again. "I know you're in there. Don't be childish." I finally cracked the door open, leaving the chain on. "What do you want?" She launched straight into it. "Your father is too proud to ask, but he needs help. He's skipping his meds to save money." "Do you want him to die?" My stomach clenched. This was exactly the trap I feared, using Dad's health to manipulate me. The escalation. I told her, "I'm not discussing this at my door. If Dad wants to talk to me, he can call me himself." The man with her, the coworker, spoke up. "Look, I don't know your situation, but your dad's a good guy. If you can help him out, you should." I turned to him. "Do you know she locked me out with no warning? Took all my stuff. And now she shows up because she wants money?" He looked shocked, like that piece of the story had never reached him. My mom immediately said, "That's not how it happened," in that dismissive tone she uses when she doesn't want to be challenged. I shut the door. The family smear campaign. Later that day, I got calls from 2 aunts and a cousin, all asking why I was letting my father suffer. My mom had clearly been busy spinning her version of events. One aunt said, "We don't know what's going on between you and your mother, but your dad shouldn't be punished for it." I told her, "I'm not punishing Dad. I'm protecting myself from Mom." There was silence. Then she changed the subject. That told me everything. She understood, but didn't want to get involved. Dad reaches out. 2 nights later, Dad called. His voice was low, almost like he was whispering. "I didn't tell her to come to you," he said. "I don't want you to think I'm okay with that." We talked for an hour. He admitted that he was skipping doses to make his meds last longer. He also admitted that Mom was refusing to downsize expenses. She still bought brand-name groceries, ordered takeout twice a week, and insisted on keeping the cable package with every channel. When I suggested selling the house before foreclosure, he sighed. "She won't hear of it. Says it would be humiliating." That was when I realized my dad wasn't just trapped financially. He was trapped emotionally. The offer. I told him, I'll help you directly, but not through Mom. I can set up an account at the pharmacy in your name so your prescriptions are covered. She doesn't get a say in it. He hesitated. If she finds out. I cut in. She doesn't have to. He agreed. The fallout. A week later, I got a furious voicemail from my mom. How dare you go behind my back? You're trying to turn your father against me. This is exactly why I said you were toxic. If you keep this up, don't bother coming to the funeral when the time comes. The funeral line hit me like a punch, but it also told me something important. She was losing control. For years, she'd held all the power by controlling the flow of information and money. Now I'd found a way to bypass her, and she hated it. Where things stand. Dad has his medication again. He says he's feeling better already. I know it's only a short-term fix, they still have the mortgage issue. But at least his health isn't on the line right now. As for my mom, she's gone quiet. I'm sure she's regrouping, figuring out her next move. With her, silence is never peace, it's just the calm before the storm. I'm bracing for whatever comes next. It's been 3 more months since my last update. I honestly didn't think this would turn into such a saga, but here we are. If you've been following my previous posts, you know my mom kicked me out by changing the locks, then came back into my life when I stopped paying for my dad's expensive meds. Since then, she's tried guilt trips, showing up at my door, rallying relatives against me, and accusing me of turning my father against her when I started helping him directly. I thought the situation might finally calm down. I was wrong. The bank steps in. It started with a phone call from my dad one Wednesday evening. They served us papers, he said, his voice shaking. The bank's moving forward with foreclosure. Even though I knew this was coming, my stomach dropped. That house had been our family home since I was 6 years old. Do you have somewhere to go? I asked. He hesitated. Your mother has ideas. Translation, she's about to make this my problem. The idea. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a long text from Mom. I think it would be best for all of us if we stayed with you for a while until we get back on our feet. It's only fair since you have more space than you need. We can contribute for groceries, but obviously can't pay rent right now. Family sticks together. I stared at the screen, jaw dropped. This woman, who locked me out, refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing, and tried to shame me publicly, thought I'd just opened my door to her. I replied with exactly 2 words. Absolutely not. Within minutes, she called me. You're really going to leave your parents homeless? You're not homeless, I said. You have siblings, friends, and other options. She laughed. Cold and sharp. You'll regret this when we're gone. The family gathering disaster. I could have blocked her right then. But my dad's birthday was coming up, and my aunt was hosting a small dinner for him. I figured I could survive a few hours in the same room as my mom without incident. Wrong again. It started polite enough, fake smiles, forced, how are you, exchanges. But halfway through dinner, my mom stood up, glass of wine in hand, and decided to give a speech. I just want to say, she began, that some of us here still believe in family. And some of us, well, some of us would rather watch their father suffer than share their good fortune. The room went silent. Every eye turned to me. I took a deep breath. That's funny, I said. Because I am helping Dad, just not through you. And maybe if you hadn't locked me out and stolen my things, we wouldn't be here. A few relatives gasped. My mom's face turned red. That is not what happened. She started, but I cut her off. I have the text message. Do you want me to read it out loud? Dead silence. She sat down without another word. The aftermath. The fallout was immediate. 2 cousins messaged me later saying they had no idea about the lockout. An uncle told me quietly that he'd been on my side for a while but didn't want to get in the middle. My mom left the party early with my dad trailing behind her, looking like he wanted to disappear. The next day, Dad called. "She's furious," he said. "But, thank you. I think some people needed to hear the truth." The move. By the end of the month, the foreclosure went through. They had to vacate the house. My dad moved in with one of his brothers temporarily. My mom, however, ended up renting a small apartment on the edge of town, apparently with money she'd been saving for emergencies, so much for being broke. I've visited Dad at my uncle's place twice. We've agreed that if he ever needs help, he'll call me directly, and that Mom doesn't need to know the details. The final conversation. About 2 weeks ago, I ran into my mom at the grocery store. She acted like nothing had happened, chatting about the weather and asking if I'd thought about having kids yet. When I didn't respond, she sighed. "You're still holding a grudge. One day you'll realize I did what I had to do." I looked her in the eye. "No, you did what was easiest for you. And now I'm doing what's healthiest for me." She rolled her eyes and walked away. Where I am now. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm not living under a constant cloud of guilt. I have my own place, stable income, and a relationship with my dad that's slowly healing. My mom is, well, still my mom, manipulative, self-centered, and convinced she's the victim. But here's the thing, I'm finally okay with not trying to fix her. Some relationships, even with parents, are better loved from a distance.